Hello, I'm back with another review of one of my top 3 movies of 2019, just so we can cap off the end of the decade. And today I am going to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the most recent film from Quentin Tarantino, who's one of my favorite directors, one of my many favorite directors. And basically this film is like a love letter to Hollywood of the 1960s. The late 1960s, which is around the time of the Vietnam War, the hippie movement, the protest movement, and I think basically cinema is movies began to change. And so the film stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. And there's a lot I can name, but that's just gonna be me wasting time. So it centers around Rick Dalton, who was an actor who was well known for being in a TV show, in a TV Western, which is called Bounty Law. I think it's Bounty Law. I think that is what it's called. It was a popular Western show. This is not based on true events, but it is centered around the infamous Manson murders. If you don't know, but I don't want to go into too much detail, because I might get taken down. So just look up the Manson murders. So if you just want to know, there's always Google. So anyway, and in fact, why am I talking about this? It is going to get violent. So basically, screw it, I'm just gonna say it. So Sharon Tate, who's an actress. She's been in movies like Valley of the Dolls. She's expected to have a kid with his husband, Roman Polanski. And while Roman Polanski is away shooting a movie, Sharon Tate, as well as a few others, were murdered in their house by members of the Manson family. And then later on, they would murder the LaBiancas. And of course, Manson was arrested. He spent the rest of his life in jail. And you should have seen me how happy I was when Manson was dead. When I found out Manson died, I was so happy. Now I'm a Beatles fan, and I hate Manson for his interpretation of the meaning of Helter Skelter, like an apocalyptic race war. Helter Skelter is calling this. He said there's going to be like apocalyptic race war called Helter Skelter. Don't blame the music, blame the drugs. I really hate Manson for that. And because of that, Paul McCartney rarely performs the song live because of Manson. And to Manson down in hell. So, and continue. So Rick Dalton and his stuntman, who is really good friends, Cliff Booth. So Rick is trying to find work trying to find more work in the trying to find more work in the movie industry. He was approached by this producer who is played by Al Pacino, probably after he filmed all of his scenes for The Irishman. And he was given the opportunity to be part of some Italian Western movies, or as everyone calls it, the spaghetti Western. There's like two different Westerns. There's the American Western and the spaghetti Western. The spaghetti Western always has the baritone guitar like here. This is the first time I'm gonna play guitar right here. You know, like spaghetti westerns usually have like the low sounding guitar. I don't know, I just made that up. Usually, like American Westerns, it's just usually like an orchestra. So movies like the movies with Clint Eastwood, the Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, those are spaghetti westerns. He was given the opportunity to do that, but he basically doesn't want it. Thinks that spaghetti westerns are stupid and they're boring. And so he continues to do more work, appearing in more TV shows. Showing up in pilots of TV shows. One of them being an actual TV show that they just put Rick in there. In fact, speaking of putting Leo in old TV shows, there's this one scene like with an actor in one of his co-stars in a other Western. I said like he almost got the part in he almost got Steve McQueen's part in The Great Escape. And then we cut to that's a scene from The Great Escape, but instead of Steve McQueen, it's just Leo DiCaprio. It's just Rick Dalton, Leo DiCaprio. I was like, damn, that's pretty impressive. I don't think there's no way you could there's no way to remove Steve McQueen and added, because back then it was all shot on film. Movies like that were shot on film. And then speaking of Steve McQueen, he does show up in the film. It was played by an actor, I don't even remember his name. But it was at a party in the Playboy Mansion with Sharon Tate, who was played by Margot Robbie. There's a lot going on in this movie. I'm literally like going out of order. Now Rick is mostly like his driver, since he said like, oh, my car's in the shop, and then he goes like, that was a lie. I was drunk and then I crashed my car, ended up taking my license away. And I was like, it's hilarious. Now, it can't be a Quentin Tarantino film without an awesome-ass soundtrack. Without a kick-ass soundtrack. Boy, since it's the 60s, there's gotta be a lot of good shit in there. Most of the soundtrack is like a couple Paul Revere and the Raiders songs. I was even so happy when they play when a Rolling Stones song showed up. I was so happy because I love the Rolling Stones. I recently got to see the Rolling Stones a few months ago in August. Yeah, at the Rose Bowl. I was so happy they play that song. The song was out of time, and they play. Usually the version everyone knows is the one with marimbas. My favorite version was one without the marimbas. Instead of it's an orchestra version, almost like a early '60s pop song. This is the version that they used, and I was even more happier knowing that Quentin Tarantino knows his stuff, knows his music. They even have some covers, like there's like this nice cover of California Dreaming by Mamas and the Papas. And speaking of the Mamas and the Papas, there are at that Playboy Mansion, there is also one of the two members of the Mamas and the Papas. Yeah, nice. Also, I want to talk about this one scene with when Rick Dalton was in shooting a scene with I think it was a pilot. It was a flashback scene, so Kurt Russell's character, and he's also narrating the film. And what he did, so they were talking about like Cliff Booth and how like, why are you still working with that guy? You know he murdered his own wife. And he's like, oh, don't believe in that bullshit. And we cut to another flashback of Cliff Booth and his wife on a boat. Like, his wife was arguing. His wife was arguing with him. And he's just chilling there, like, not even listening. And he has a harpoon pointed right at her. So, and then it just cuts back. We don't even get to see. We don't even know if he murdered her by accident or he actually did. We just don't. I just like how he just put something there with no explanation. And we also get that, and also that same scene, we can see the fight scene with Cliff Booth and Bruce Lee. Now, this was a controversial scene because of what I'm about to explain. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm about to explain. So,
Christian, get out of the bathroom and poop like you're done.
his father. So, the fight begins. Bruce Lee approaches Cliff, and Cliff just throws him in the side of a car. It was just that part. And he managed to get a beating, and he still gets back up like nothing happened. It's always been known. He never loses a fight. He never gets beaten down in a fight. And that was like the one scene. Even like I think one of Bruce Lee's relatives, I think, condemned the scene because of it. And I think they like wanted to remove it, but it's Quentin Tarantino. He doesn't give a shit. So, also, funny thing about Quentin Tarantino, if you talk about how violent his movies are, He's just gonna tell you to shut up. Violence is fun. Movie violence is fun. My movies don't cause any. There's no way my movies cause any violence. I just want people to have a good time. Like, if you watch any interview of Quentin Tarantino on PC Culture, it's very enjoyable. It shows how much of a director I admire when it comes to interviews and that. So, Cliff Booth, and then there's one scene with Cliff Booth. This is where I literally just go out of order, since a lot just goes on. And there's Cliff Booth who picks up one of a hippie girl who is one of the members of the Manson family, and usually like one of the members who was hitchhiking, and Cliff managed to give her a ride back to Spartan Ranch, which is where they stayed. And since it was a Western set, and he worked on Westerns before as a stuntman, he's trying to find the owner. I think his name is George or Spawn. I think that was his name. To see if he's still here. He wants to say hi. And the man is like legally blind. And like the other members just don't want you to. They're like, hey, please, we don't want you to bother him. He's sleeping. And yet. Then, also in that scene, what else? Let's see. They managed to just go up. I was thinking, oh, he might have murdered him, because I forgot to do my research, because I only researched the murders and not what happened before that. So, he visits him. Turns out he was napping, and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, hey, it's Cliff Booth. And he, like, doesn't remember who he... Doesn't remember... Hell, he doesn't even remember what he looks like because he's blind. Legally blind. And that... Now... It's just like a little chat. And I was like, I'm kind that you came to visit, but I need my sleep. And they left. And then that same hitchhiker was like... And it was like, yep, thanks a lot. You embarrass me. And the other members are just like, boo. And I'm like, get out of here, you scumbag. You commie fucker. And then one of the hippies blew out the tires with a switchblade. And he's like, you know that's not my car. That's my client's car. And I don't want him to come back with a flat tire, because I might get fired. So, fix it. And he's like, fuck you. And it beats the living shit out of him. And he pulls out the thing, and it pulls him over there, fix it. And the girl's like approaching him, it's like, take one more step or I'm knocking his teeth out. And then leaves. I think there's also a scene like Dirt before that, where he meets with, where Rick is doing a pilot for another Western, and like one of the actors is being played by the late Luke Perry, which is I think it was his final, film performance before his passing. May he rest in peace. And it was kind of sad watching. It's kind of sad to knowing. It feels sad knowing that he's no longer with us. And then so it's kind of like funny. So usually like it cuts to like a so the way the whole thing goes, the filming of the scene is actually thinking you are watching that Western. Everything's going all movely, and then come Rick's character and a conversation, and it was like line and then cut, and he like kept forgetting his lines because he's an his character's an alcoholic, and he keeps, even though he just remembers a lot, tries remembering his lines, he drinks a lot and he doesn't remember any of his lines. And then like this one scene back in the street, I was like having a breakdown. I was like, I can't believe it scares me in front of the goddamn people. I hate these people. You're trying to remember. You're not remembering your fucking lines. You're fucking drunk ass. Yeah, it just has like a breakdown, and he's like cleans himself up, gets rid of the liquor, and then just does the whole scene again and does it. And he does another scene and he does it perfectly. And then there's after that, and there's a child actor, and he was like, you've probably seen that clip in the theater. It was like, that was the best acting I have ever seen. Like you. Yeah, I knew. And so, I don't remember what else. This much. Oh yeah, there's also a scene when Sharon Tate and one of his friends came, like packing up, like unpacking the house. All of a sudden, Charles Manson showed up, and he came to the house asking, "Hey, is Terry Melchin live here? I'm a friend of Terry's and Dennis." And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. He moved out. Right now, this is the Polanski residence." It's like, oh, thanks. Now, as much as I try to do research on Manson, now, when he talks about Terry Melchin and Dennis Wilson, the drummer of the Beach Boys, so what happened is that Dennis Wilson, who was the drummer of the Beach Boys, picked up two members of the Manson, two hitchhikers who were part of the Manson family, took them to Spawn Ranch. I think it was either took them to their place. And took him to his place, and then they told him about and then Manson came to his place, and he introduced himself to Dennis, and they began a friendship, small friendship, even the point where he let the Beach Boys use one of his songs, and the song, now the Beach Boys song is called, that Beach Boys song was Never Learn Not to Love. And the song was credited to Dennis Wilson only. That upset Charlie. That upset him. So he tried to find the So he took upon 4 of his members to that house, and to Terry Melton's house because he couldn't give him a record deal. And he went to trying to go to his house to murder them, only to murder the man, only to murder Sharon Tate and a few others, which I already mentioned before. And yeah. So he leaves, has a little hello to Sharon Tate, who will be murdered by them, and go on. So remember that executive that's played by Al Pacino? He was watching his most recent most recent pilot, and this is where he like, yes, there it is. Get him on the phone. Get him on the phone. And he talked to the director of that Western that helped him seal the deal to getting him be in this Western. So after that, after that, he's been casting two spaghetti westerns and a sort of James Bond type of film, Italian or German, whatever one of them, or French James Bond spy film. And then he married I don't know if it's Italian or a Spanish woman. And then he married a Spanish woman and came back to LA. Went back to his place. And then later that night, and then went out to get dinner, and then came back home, and then that exact night is the night of the murders. So yeah.
Now I should tell you that this is a Quentin Tarantino movie, so there is no non-happy endings. There's always happy endings. So, spoilers, if you haven't seen it. Spoilers.
I probably should have said this before I said there were happy endings. So what happened? So those members of the man's family pulled up to the street. They parked right on the street. They're gonna go up the hill up the streets to the house. And Maya Hawke's character, who was playing the one member who is supposed to be on lookout, staying in the car on lookout, saying, "Oh, I forgot my knife," and she just bailed out. Now this is a hint. If you know your history, this is when you know that this is not a retelling. This is Quentin Tarantino. If you've seen Inglourious Bastards or Django Unchained, you know what I'm talking about. So they actually, in fact, before that, he was went up to the driveway. No. Screw that. So the member showed up, went to the driveway up to the house, and then because of the car being all old, Rick hears it and is looks out the window, is "Oh, no, there it is, those fucking hippies." He goes out and confronts them, and "Hey, what the hell you think you're doing? Get your fucking old guy out of his car and get the hell out of here, you fucking hippies." And then just drive back to the end of the street. And then you realize, wait a minute, was that Rick Dalton? Oh yeah, I remember watching that show. Oh yeah, that is him. Bro, I just remember watching about too long. Yeah. And that's when they decided to switch things around. He's you know what? Let's murder him. So yeah. And like as I said before, like Maya Hawke's character, who you might, if you watch Stranger Things, you might know who she is. So, and it's funny that her mom is also Uma Thurman, who's also been in who's also been in Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, and yeah. So, because that, and then after that, so after, I guess her character, who's supposed to be the one member who's on lookout, ditches them. He's like, "Are you kidding me? All right. After we're all gonna split up and get a taxi home, hitchhike home." And yeah, and while Rick is on the pool, her fiance is sleeping, and Rick just finished walking his dog, while also high on LSD, high on acid, because when that hitchhiker gave him a cigarette dipped in acid. I was like, does that even work? Are you sure that works? I guess not. So he's like high as a kite, and then the members of the Manson family just broke in, and he's all like high as a kite. He's like doesn't know how to. He's like not reacting. He's like not scared. It's like, okay, so let's do it. He like realizes, oh wait, I know you. We met in Monterey. I think I know you. I don't remember your name, but I recognize the hair. Yeah. Well, what's your name? He's like, Tex. He's like, Tex. There we go. There. Listen, man. And he said those words that I've been waiting to hear. I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's business. Because that's what that Tex Watson actually said. And Cliff was like, that's the stupidest damn thing I ever heard. And by the way, Cliff Booth has a pit bull. He has a pit bull. And he's about to feed him. When things are about to get real heated, is when he goes as a signal for his dog, and his dog just ran over to Tex and just bit him in the balls. This is where things just get cranked up to 11. This is where it gets really amazing. This is where it gets real hilarious. And then one man just like rushes at him, throws dog food at him, and he's just like screaming all the time. And then it was the other one. He just like bashes her head in a wall, and his wife woke up, and the fiance woke up. He's like scared. Us in the room. Doesn't do anything that much. Well, except for one kick, and that's it. And then Rick is just chilling in the pool. And then, and then that dog food in the face, like, imagine the food, he's like, what the fuck? And he's just like still screaming. So he jumps out of the pool, went to his shed, and pulls out a flamethrower. I forgot to mention that he was in a movie where he hunts down Nazis. He was literally in a 60s Inglourious Bastards. So he kept that flamethrower from that movie, and he just torches her. And he's like still like screaming while on fire. And I was like, hey, you dumb bitch, you're in a pool. And oh yeah, and Cliff and then Cliff also gets stabbed by one of them. And while he still has a guy, he's probably numb and just like And he's like, just touched the knife tip. It doesn't work. Yeah. He ended up going to the So yeah, cops were. So yeah. So yeah, the two members are dead, and Cliff was sent to the hospital, and then their next door neighbors, who happened to be the Tate, happened to be the Sharon Tate residents, the Plansky. Yeah, one of the friends came out and was like, "Hey, I heard a lot of commotion. Like, what happened?" I was like, "Oh, these fucking hippies broke into my house, attacked my friend and my fiance." It's like, "Oh, man, what happened?" Oh, a friend just killed two of them, and I torched one of them with a flame. Wait, I was like, "Wait a minute, are you Rick Dalton?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." So it's like, oh my god, I've seen you and stuff. So what happened? So yeah, these two hippies broke into my house. My friend killed two of them, and I torched and I burned one of them. I was like, you did? He's like, yeah, I had a flamethrower. He's like, oh, 55th McCluskey. I was like, yeah, exactly. He's like, hey, if you don't mind, would you like to come on over? He's like, yeah, sure. And so he stops by with the Polanski residence with Sharon Tate. That means in the Quentin Tarantino universe, Sharon Tate lives and has the baby. And who knows, since he met Rick, maybe Sharon introduced him to Roman Polanski. And who knows, in the Quentin Tarantino universe, Rick Dalton played the main character, played Jack Nicholson's character in Chinatown. So yeah, and that's the happy ending. And there's like a mid-credit scene where it's just a commercial for Red Apple cigarettes, which is the Quentin Tarantino universe cigarette brand. Since Quentin Tarantino is against, he's really against product placement. So he just like make up his own products, like Big Kahuna Burger, like in Pulp Fiction, and the Red Apple cigarettes. And like after the commercial ended, he's like, director's like, cut. He's like, God, these things are disgusting. Who picked this cardboard cutout? And then that's it. So that was Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It is Quentin Tarantino at his best. It's definitely up on my top 5 favorites. Definitely up there on my favorites, which are his first two, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, as well as Death Proof, and now Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a love letter to Hollywood in the 60s, and it has really been put in great detail. They put a lot of detail in this film, like changing Los Angeles to make it look like the 60s. So yeah, the performances are amazing. Even just the characters who are actors, they did a good job of playing those actors. So yeah, Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is now one of my new favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. Definitely up in my top 4. And since it's his 9th film, meaning that one more film and he's done with filmmaking. Who knows what it will be? Some say it's like he said it's a Star Trek movie, meaning that it's gonna be, I don't think it's like a literal Star Trek movie, like Starship Enterprise, and a lot of violence and sex and that, but it's kind of like a Galaxy Quest. in a sort of way. Yeah. So it's a sci-fi. It's gonna be his last film. It would have been better if his last film was a horror movie. The closest we got was Death Proof for the Grindhouse thing with Robert Rodriguez. Yeah. So yeah, quick. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 10 out of 10. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video. Comment down below what's your favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. And always, if you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Click on that notification bell. Also, follow me on Twitter if you want to hear, if you like me to talk more about movies and do reviews when movies come out. The link is below. Go follow my Twitter. As always, tomorrow will be my number one. Will be literally my favorite movie of 2019. And yeah, that is all. And I'll see you on the other side.